Welcome back to the Canary Room. I'm going to let you into a little secret. We've recently moved home. The birds are in their new house. Come and let's take a look. Hi, and welcome back to the Canary Room. On today's show, we're going to look at the birds that have formed the clear line, the variegated line, and the blues. We'll also look at how we make soak seed, so we're back in the kitchen later, I'm sure. And finally, we'll finish the show with a little bit of British. Talked about the exhibition redpolls. We've met them in a previous episode. Let's look at them now in their new flight cages. As always, sit back and enjoy. So, all the birds are singled off now, and we're going to start to develop the lines over the course of the coming weeks and months. Now, lots and lots of stuff has been written about developing lines of birds, and A lines and B lines, and this cock and that hen. And that's all great. The theory of it works really well. But what's important, what's vitally important, is the quality of the birds that you've got in the lines. As with anything pedigree, over a period of time, you're looking to improve the faults on the birds that you've got, and you're looking to get towards the standard. That's what I'm aiming to do. So, we're going to take a look now at the clear birds that are just behind me. This year, I've changed the way that I'm running my lines together. What I've done this year is I've set up the breeding team to mirror that of the colour specials. So I talk about a clear line, and they'll breed clear and lightly variegated, and I talk about a variegated line, and so on and so forth. And we'll see all the lines over this episode and the next episode of the show. The first pair that we've got here, which is part of the clear line, is a clear buff hen, and we've met her in a previous show, and a ticked yellow cock. Really good colour on the cock bird. Hen's a little bit washed out, but the two will balance each other. And that's what you're looking for when you're pairing birds together. You're looking at birds that have got often the same quality, because you want to enhance that. So two birds with good heads are great to pair together, rather than a bird with a poor head and another bird with a poor head, because what are you going to end up with? Poor-headed birds. And that's what we've got with this pair here. So the cock bird's got quite a good head on him, and the hen bird's not bad too. They're a nice pair of birds. She is a really good stock hen. You can see that they're going to nest, so they've been together for a couple of weeks now. They've built a nest up, and hopefully in the next few days or so we'll start to see some eggs. So we've seen the clear birds, and we're running those as a pair this year. With the variegated line, I'm running the birds as trios, so that's a cock and two hens. And there's a reason behind that. I'm looking to breed a number of variegateds this year. I've got some really strong variegated birds, and the line is about 7 or 8 years old, so I can go back generations and generations and generations in it. And that's really what you want in a stud of birds. You want consistency, and you want them over generations. And what you're also looking for is the different breeding techniques that you've got. So there's things like outcrosses, inbreeding and line breeding. Now, an outcross, and we've met a couple already in an earlier show, is a bird from an unrelated stud. Line breeding is what I prefer, is one line of descent, one line of variance from the birds. So line breeding is half brother to half sister, auntie to nephew. Inbreeding is mother to son, father to daughter, brother to sister. It's not a pairing I like to use very often. I will use it occasionally if I've got a really good, strong cock bird that I want to pair back to one of his daughters to keep the gene pool. We'll have a little look now at the variegated birds. As I say, this is a line that's been developed over many, many years. It's done really well for me on the bench. Let's take a look at the three of the birds. Here we've got the variegated yellow hen. We've got the cock bird in the middle, a variegated buff cock, and on the end, we've got a clear yellow hen. Now that pairing, the variegated buff cock and the clear yellow hen, will breed clear birds for me, and I'll probably throw the odd clear through this pairing as well. But generally speaking, it will be variegated birds that they'll do. They'll breed some 10% birds, lightly variegated. And the way that I've structured the breeding team this year is so I can compete across the colours. With the Fife birds, which is the main bird that I keep in the canary room, I'm looking to keep a stud of birds across the colours, and we'll talk as the season goes on about how that works out, how we see whether I get a strong clear team, and I hope to this year. I've always had a strong variegated team for the show bench. We're going to run this boy in here now. They should mate. She's built up, they've mated a number of times. The hen here is not quite ready. Now what I've got in this pairing is an unflighted bird. So that's a bird which is last year's bird, the cock's last year's bird. The hen is from the previous year, and I like to do that when I'm running trios, because normally what happens, although it's not the case in this situation, is the unflighted bird will come into condition slightly sooner than the flighted bird. It hasn't happened like this way. That bird, although she's showing signs of breeding, she's been picking up the nesting material when I've put it in there. She's not quite ready yet, so I haven't put a pan in. This bird has built a nest, she is ready, and she's been mated up. I'll run the cock in the morning and in the night, but I won't leave him with them. What I'll do later in the season though, is this is the priority pair for me of this trio. So later in the season, I'll pull this divide out, and that will form a double cage, and I'll leave that pair together. I want to get some young off this bird, but this bird's a pair that I really want to get young off. So now I'm going to run this bird in here, and we'll see if they tread. The second trio that we're going to see in the variegated line is the heavily variegated buff cock, Movering 28. He's the brother to the variegated that we've just seen, and two hens. In the end cage here, we've got the clear yellow hen. She's over from Ireland, this bird. We saw her in a previous episode. And we've got another variegated yellow hen here. Now she's already gone down to nest. That pair's mated up. He's put her down to nest, and she's already on 5 eggs. Which is, it's a really, really good start for us. Really, really pleased with that. Be interested to see how they look and how they develop. The cock is absolutely, you can see him, he is racing. This hen on the end here isn't quite ready for him yet. I've run him in a few times. She's not picking up as much as I'd like her to be. So it'll be another 6 or 7 days before she comes into condition and she's ready to breed. But that's absolutely fine. As I've said in previous episodes, we don't want to rush this. We're going to let nature take its course. He's bouncing fit. He's ready to breed. As I say, he's put one hen down already. She's got 5 eggs. We'll have a look at those in a further episode. They've only just been set. Normally I'd leave them 6 or 7 days before I check them, and I'd check to see whether they're fertile or not. And in our top tips that you'll see on our YouTube channel, you'll see how we check the eggs, and you'll see that in a later episode too. Don't mind the hens coming off the nest for a little bit. They'll feed, they'll water, but really at this stage, you want to see them sitting tight. You see them incubating the eggs. That's really, really important. The eggs will go cold, and they can go cold, but if they go too cold, then the chances are you'll get dead in shell. So the third trio that we've got in the variegated line is a variegated yellow cock and 2 buff hens. Talked before about the difference of yellow and buff birds. Obviously in canaries you breed yellow feathered birds, so you can see it's a deeper colour to a buff feathered bird. When you're looking at your pairings, not only are you looking at the shape of the birds, the size of the birds, the features and the qualities of the birds that you've got, you're also looking at feather. Now it's not just about yellow and buff. Within yellow and buff there's soft and hard feather as well, and intermediate. And the more experienced you get, the more that you can recognise the different types of feather within yellow and buff. So we saw earlier on a clear buff hen. She's got an incredibly soft feather, and that's great. But you don't want to pair soft feathered birds to soft feathered birds, because they'll lose shape, they'll lose size, they'll lose any kind of definition that you're looking for. So yellow cockbird here, he's already got a hen down. She's on 4 eggs. Not checked them yet. I don't know whether they're fertile or not. So shall we have a look, and we can do that now quickly. So if you can see the eggs that we've got here, you can see that they're quite dark in colour. Now, without candling them, and we will candle them later on, that's quite a good sign. They've been set for 4 or 5 days now. The darker the eggs generally means that they're full, so they'll have chicks in. That'd be great if that is the case. The final canaries that we're going to see in this week's episode are the blue line. Now, we talked about the development of the variegated line and how that's been going on for generations and generations. The blue line is a relatively new line this year. It's one of set started this year. In this cage behind me, you'll see there's the blue cock and there's a self-green flighted buff hen. Now, the green buff hen is related to some of the other greens that we'll see in a future episode. And the blue cock is bred down from a similar way, so genetically they're a good mix. I've also paired, and we can just see her in this cage here, the blue cock with a heavily variegated blue hen. Now she's on eggs already, so I've paired him up with her. She's sitting on the nest now. I'm running him now with this green hen. I've never really run a blue to blue pairing before. I'm interested to see what comes out of it. Just talked about the feather type before, earlier on in the show. I think the feather type from both of these birds will work well with the 2 blues, although only time will tell when hopefully the young hatch. I'm interested to see what happens with this pair. I think when I talk about setting a line, when I talk about competing for a colour, I look at it as a 3-year plan. This is in year 1. So this year I'm looking to breed some foundation birds. I'm looking to breed those birds to select from for next year, to put the line together. And then year 2, the young in year 2, I'm looking for class wins from those birds. And year 3, I'm looking to challenge for the colour special. And that's my approach to all of the lines of birds that I work with. As I say, this year, I've tried something slightly different. I'm still working within families of birds, and that's really important, I think. I'm still working in families of birds, but I've actually segmented them down into the different lines. So I've got a clear line, I've got a lightly variegated and variegated line, I've got a heavily variegated and self-green line, I've got a cinnamon line, and I've got a blue line. And that's all of the colour specials taken care of. The lines are at different stages, and that's what you want when you're breeding birds. Over a period of time, a line will develop, it will get better, it will improve. And within a stud of canaries, really what you're looking for is to have a number of different lines in your own shed, so you can rely on yourself to provide birds for it. Let's take a closer look at some of these blues now. So we're back in the kitchen again. Today we're going to show you how to make soak seed. Now, I'm indebted to my good friend Alan Hoary, who, when I went to see him a few weeks ago, I'd been making soak seed for many, many years, with sieves and jugs basically. I went to see Alan, and Alan put me onto something which you can buy off Amazon, which is absolutely perfect for making soak seed, and it's rice steamers. Microwave rice steamers. You're looking for one that comes in 3 parts like this. You're looking for one with relatively fine holes like that so the seed doesn't go through, but it's absolutely perfect for the job. So we're going to make some soak seed now. It's a little bit Blue Peter this, so you'll see here's one we made earlier in a little bit, but we'll make some now. So first thing we do is we get the soak seed mix, which we've got here. You can see it's got little bits of rape in, it's got little bits of oat in. I will, as the season goes on, I'll add mung bean in, or the beans that become mung beans. I won't put them in now because we're using this as a conditioner. I find in the season itself, the hens really pick those out. Really, really straightforward this. Egg food drawers, great for measuring things out. 1 and 2. We only need to put 2 in for now. don't need to make a great deal of soak seed. As I say, there's no young in the nest at the moment. So we'll put that in. I'll just put the lid back on that, because otherwise we'll cover that in water. And then the next thing we do is we use, now a lot of guys used to use bleach. I've used vanadine in the past. People have a fear with soak seed of it going stale and off and birds picking it up and it affecting their gut. This is what I use in mine. It's Dr. Johnson's sterilising fluid. You buy it for babies' bottles. I put the tiniest amount in, but it keeps the water fresh. Doesn't affect the sugar of the seed, which is what you know, which is one of the reasons you give soak seeds. So literally, tiny little square. Move over to the tap. We fill that up. You can see the seed is covered in the water, so sink it to the bottom there. Seed's covered to the water. That's all we need to do. We'll pop the lid on. We'll leave that now for 24 hours to soak, and then after the 24-hour period, take the lid off, lift this out, shake the water off, and discard the water. We'll leave this then for a further 24 hours, and what will happen in that time with the lid on, the seeds will start to break, they'll start to germinate. After they've germinated, which is again about day 2, we'll give them another rinse, and then on day 3 they'll be ready to give to the birds. So that, very simply, is how you make the soak seed. Make sure once they've germinated that you give them a thorough rinse through to just wash off any of the sterilising fluid that may still be there, and then we can feed them to the birds. What I do is that any surplus soak seed I put in a little dish with a lid on and keep it in the fridge. So we've got a number of cameras set up in the Canary room. Today I wanted to introduce you to Mac Cam. Ridiculously, this little bad boy goes on my head and I film the birds when we don't have the full crew here. I'm not going to put it on now because it'll end up as an outtake at the end. But you'll meet Mac Cam in this episode, and he'll be there in future episodes too. So recently, I refurbished some of the cages for the British using Mac Cam. Let's take a little look. So here you can see the finished article. Just refurbed these flight cages. There's a couple here. The top one has got my best pair of redpolls in. They're common redpolls or lesser redpolls. I've not colour fed the cock, he's 2 years old, an absolutely stunning bird. The hen is a young bird, it's a bird from last year. Got a pair of siskins in the bottom. Last year I bred a pair of redpolls in cages and had some limited success, so this year I've refurbed these flight cages. I've built some other flight cages as well, and I'm going to breed them in smaller flights and hope for some more success with them. You'll notice that the cock hasn't been colour fed. Some of the other pairs you'll see they have. The cock redpolls don't take their red chest until the second year, or till after the first year rather, and they've been colour fed. This one hasn't been colour fed, so he's more golden than red, but an absolutely stunning set of birds. I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing what they breed. So here's the other 2 pairs of redpolls that we've got. I made these cages, and we'll see how I did that in a later episode. Let me tell you, I'm not a joiner, but I think that'll be evidently clear when you see the footage. But I made these, and I made them for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to try and breed the polls in flight cages this year rather than cages. And 2, the configuration of the cages in the Canary room. I have them 6 high, and as I'm getting a little bit older, the bottom cages were quite low on the floor, and it makes it for a little old guy like me quite difficult to get down. In this cage here behind me, flight cage directly behind me, there's a cinnamon cobalt hen, you can see her there. And then there's a normal redpoll cock that will breed cinnamon carriers then. And then in the other cage, there's just a normal pair of poles. The hen is bred out of an Isabel, so she's slightly down on colour, but they're a nice pair. I'm really, really, really excited to have these in the room. They're an addition just this year. I've had poles for a year or 2 now, but I've got more than I've had before. They're an addition and they're a really beautiful bird. In a couple of seasons' time, once I've got the hang of them, I'll show them, will be the intention, and I'll also look to do some muling with the canaries. I've got some reds, which we'll see in a future episode. I've got some reds and I'll look to mule them with those. So that's the end of the show. Thanks very much for watching. As always, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Canary Room. Like our Facebook page. Check out our YouTube channel too, where we've got how-to guides. And if you want to get in touch with the show, email us at The Canary Room. Until next time, take care. She's come off the nest now. You can see she's back on. Hello. That'll be the outtakes at the end. Hello, Seed. How are you? Are you well? Are you enjoying your soak? Did you get that? Yeah, of course you got it. Give me more light. Shine it off my head. Jesus. Oh! I hope you haven't filmed that.